Alright guys and gals, let's get real nerdy here. We need to clean this fuel tank, and because I'm going to do a flush mount cap in it, I want to work with the cleanest metal possible, and this thing does have a little surface rust within it, and I know that it also has evidence of an old liner in it. So I want to try to clean the inside of the tank as much as possible before I really start working with it and cutting it open. So what we're going to do is some electrolysis. Alright, so what is electrolysis, you might ask? Well, I'm no chemistry teacher, so I can't explain it very well, but what we're going to do is we're going to use a battery, and we're going to negatively charge the tank and use a sacrificial piece of metal called an anode. We're going to stick it in here with a solution within the tank, and basically we're going to transfer electrons through that liquid, and then this is going to turn rusty because of all the rust that's in the tank. That's the boiled down, real simple version. But this is not difficult to do at all. So what you need, just some pool cleaning chemical. This is just sodium carbonate. You can get that, I think that's in also like Arm & Hammer or something like that. But I've had this thing for 3 years now and getting towards the end. So it was $10, very well worth it. But what we're gonna do is we're going to use I usually use a spray paint cap for my fuel tanks here, because you want to have a little airflow and you do not want the metal waste rod, the anode, to touch the tank. So it has to float in suspension. So we're going to put the cap over this, we're going to tape it down, and then we're going to put the rod right through here, and then it will fit within the liquid and bend, and then our negative battery cable is going to be tensioned to the tank, and all of this is going to be all magical and it's going to be awesome. So anyway, I'm going to work on getting this hooked up, and you will soon see what I'm talking about. But first I need to go get a whole bucket filled with hot water. It works better with hot water, and I plan to leave this overnight. So step one. So the key is here, we do not want this to touch any of the metal, and you have to keep in mind the spine of the tank here. Don't want that to touch, otherwise you're going to be working backwards. So wiggle that around, and then you got to think whenever you put your cable on here, it's going to put some tension. So just be sure that it's going to stay put. So what I usually do is I will physically tape the cap down to the tank, and then I'll try to stabilize this the best I can. But the longer you can get this in here, or the longer piece you can use, the better, because this does actually wear out pretty quick, and you will be surprised what it looks like tomorrow. Whew. Alright, so to keep this thing sealed up, I have a plug on the fuel tap here, but I always keep them over another container. And then as far as the solution amount, I put about a cup of the sodium carbonate in here. Oh boy. It's a big tank. Of course, you use the bucket, or you use the tote to catch any liquid, or in my case, catch no liquid. Whatever, that's neither here nor there. Now quickly, I'm going to hook up these cables and show you what this looks like. Now the negative goes to the tank. Okay, you want to clip that to a decent clean piece of metal on the tank itself. Just as an example, just watch right here. I don't know if you can see any of the bubbles coming up towards that rod, but that's that reaction happening, instantly, and you can see right there already it's doing work. And we're just going to let this go all night. So I'm going to set this down and get it hooked up properly, and we'll go from there. It's probably a little hard to see, but I have the ground hooked up to the rear fuel tank mount. I know I'm covering up some of my holes, but nothing. I'll just poke back through them. This might look a little funky right now, but I've done this once or 7 times. Just trying to keep that as stable as I can while we have tension from that on there. And of course, these are like the cheesiest freaking jumper cables. All right. You can just hear it fizzing away. Alright, so here's the setup. Go into our anode, and the cathode is basically the tank. And I have the negative cable under here hooked to the tank, hooked up to the battery, and then importantly, the battery has a charger on it. Now, this is only running 2 amps, which is, I wish it was more, but that's the biggest charger I have available to me right now. But that'll do the job. It's a fresh battery out of my truck. And yeah, I'll probably check back in, I don't know, maybe a few hours or something like that. And it should be, like you have to scoop out the crap, but that just means it's working. So check back maybe in a few hours, and then clean it off, hook it back up, and see what it looks like in the morning. Alright, it is like 7 a.m. the next morning. We've been running this thing all night. Has a little bit of temperature still. I call it about 75 degrees or so. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and try to show you what this looks like. Delicious. Now here you can see just how gnarly that thing is. That transfer of electrons.
and this one causes the oxidation. So if you use this a few times, this will actually, you can see it getting pitted and eaten away. Pretty fascinating. But this is actually really safe, you know, in comparison to other things you can do in the shop, this is actually a really safe thing you can do. So you just clean this off. Like, this solution is probably still good right now. It can lose a little bit of its ability, but I can go ahead and just see if it still wants to work and just let it keep doing its thing. Same test as before. It's a little bit weakened. It's still doing something, but not to the severity that it would before. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just drain this thing, and then I will make another round of solution and just do it again. Now, one thing I don't want to do is just drain this without flushing it and not trying to clean it out, or at least, you know, or keeping the sides exposed where it has just, you know, it was wet and then it just has fresh, you know, exposed metal to the air, because that will just, you know, cause oxidation. So I do plan to line this tank, like I said, so I'm just trying to get it cleaned up a little bit beforehand before we try the, you know, using the chemical to help strip and prep the tank. Anyway, I'm just rambling, but I'm going to go ahead and do this all over again, and then by the end of this, we'll probably start, you know, we'll get a hole cut, and then we will start trying to pick out that old liner and stuff in there. But just doing what we can.